Oh, I'm sorry sir, we can't do that here. Why?
Hello and a warm welcome back to Morsels and Motors. It's now January, and January is a time of year where some classic car owners might be starting to think about whether their vehicles can become tax exempt, because January is one of the key dates involved in the system. As I've just alluded to, it's actually quite complicated, so I thought I would do this little video to guide you through the system and make sure that you get it right. But first of all, let's try and test our understanding with a few basic questions. Number one, my car is now 40 years old, so I can now apply for a tax exemption, right? Wrong. It's not quite that simple. 2. You apply to change your car's tax class to historic at the post office, don't you? Wrong. That's not quite how it works. It's not that simple. 3. Well, if it's not the post office, then it must be that I apply to the DVLA directly then. Wrong. That's not how it works either. Are you confused? Let me guide you through it. So, when does my car qualify for tax exemption? Putting it simply, if on the 1st of January on any given year, your car has already had its 40th birthday, then you can apply for it to become tax exempt from the 1st of April in that year. There are a couple of exceptions which I will explain in a moment. So, let's break that down with some examples. My Volvo 245 was registered in January 1982, and so when the 1st of January 2023 came by, it had already had its 40th birthday. So when the 1st of April 2023 came along, I was able to register that car as tax exempt, and I can now use it on the road without paying road tax on it. The next example then is my Vauxhall Cavalier. My Cavalier was registered in May 1983, which means that on the 1st of January 2024, last week, it had already had its 40th birthday. That means that when the 1st of April 2024 comes around, I will be able to register that car as tax exempt and pay no road tax on it and use it on the road. The third example is my friend David's Citroen BX. Now his BX was registered in February 1984, which means that when the 1st of April 2024 comes around, the date where you can do all of this, it will have already had its 40th birthday party, but it wasn't 40 before the 1st of January 2024, which means that David can't actually apply for his BX to become tax exempt until the 1st of April 2025, because the cut-off date for his car will be the 1st of January 2025. When in fact, his car will actually be over 41 years old by the time he's actually able to make it tax exempt. It's one of the quirks of the system. Let's look at this in a slightly different way. What it means in practice is that any car registered in 1983 will be able to be registered as tax exempt from the 1st of April 2024. Following on from that, any car registered in 1984 will become tax exempt from the 1st of April 2025, and so on. So the cut-off date to qualify is the 1st of January in any given year, but you can't actually apply for the tax to be exempt until the 1st of April of that year. I mentioned some exceptions, and that is indeed true. There are 2 exceptions to this rule, sort of. First of all, technically, the qualification for historic tax is based upon the build date of the car, not the registration date. So if you are able to prove that your car was built before the 1st of January, then you would be able to claim the tax exemption just as normal. However, I've never done this, and I don't know exactly what evidence the DVLA will require in order to prove that the car was built before the 1st of January. The other exception to the rule is that if your car was registered before the 8th of January, then the DVLA will assume that it was built before the 1st of January, and then you will still qualify for the tax exemption. So how does this differ from the MOT exemption? Well, the MOT exemption is really, really simple. Once your car reaches 40 years old, you no longer have to take it for an MOT. That means that as soon as your MOT expires, if the car is over 40, you just don't have to take your car for another MOT. There are no forms to fill out, there's nothing to apply for, there is nothing to do, you just carry on driving. This is just the general rule, of course, and there are a number of exceptions to this, and there's also a huge amount of controversy in the classic car community surrounding this exemption, but that is not what this video is about. I just wanted to raise it to distinguish between the 2 systems. They're really very different. MOT exemption is automatic and just happens the moment the car reaches 40. Tax exemption is completely different, and you have to follow the rules that I'm explaining in this video. How not to do it? Okay, so you've established that your car qualifies to be tax exempt in this year. It is now the 1st of April or mid-April, and you're very excited to skip over to the post office and get it done. Let's have a look and see how you get it wrong.
Next.
Hello, today's a really exciting day. My car turned 40 before this year, and so I'm now able to register it as tax exempt. So please can you change the taxation class to historic for me?
Oh, I'm sorry, sir, we can't do that here.
Why?
Only the DVLA can change the car tax class of your vehicle.
But the DVLA guidance on their website says I have to do it at the post office.
Oh, I'm sorry, it may say that, but it's just not something we can help with, I'm afraid. Maybe write to the DVLA.
Okay, but the guidance says that you've got to send the V5 off for me to the DVLA.
Oh, I'm sorry, we can't write to the DVLA for you. That's something you have to do yourself.
So, all forlorn, our little guy in blue heads home, writes a letter to the DVLA and sends off his V5, and a few weeks later he gets a letter back from the DVLA saying, you need to go to the post office to tax your vehicle and make it historic. By this point, he's got steam coming out of his ears. He goes onto his favourite motoring Facebook groups and starts ranting about how bureaucracy is killing the world and broken Britain. So, what should you do to get it right? Well, first of all, there are a couple of things you need to take with you to the post office. You need to bring your V5, and you also need to bring either your MOT certificate, or if you're relying on the MOT exemption, then a form V112, which you download from the DVLA's website and just fill it in and sign it. It's extremely simple. When you're at the post office, there's a particular phrase that you need to say, and I will give you those magic words right now. You need to say, hello, I would like to tax my vehicle as historic, please. That's it. Those are the magic words. Tax my vehicle as historic. What will then happen is the nice person at the post office will take your V5, they will scan the barcode on it, they will open their computer system and they will be able to tax it. They will ask you whether you want 6 or 12 months. You definitely want 12 months because it's free. What will happen is as they go through their system, there will be a drop-down box where they will be able to select the tax for that car to be 0 rated for historic. Now I have had an issue where it didn't come up the very first time I tried for a car, and so they had to sort of start all over again and do it, but it did eventually come up. As long as your car qualifies, so it meets the criteria, then it should be automatic by the DVLA that that option comes up for the post office representative. Once they've processed the tax for you, they will give you a nice little receipt which will confirm that the car is taxed from that moment, and it will have the very important thing on it saying £0.00. Hooray! They will then take your V5 and they will send it off to the DVLA. I have a couple of points on this. There is a section on the V5 for changes that you might want to make to the vehicle, and there's a box there that you can apply for a new tax class. Sometimes I have put in the word historic there, sometimes I haven't, and it hasn't made any difference. I've still had the V5 back with the car registered as a historic vehicle. I would err on the side of caution and just write the word historic in there before you go to the post office. The other thing to note is that if your V5 is a few years old and it has the name and address of the previous registered keeper of your car and you want to keep that information, then I suggest you take a photocopy of the V5 before you go to the post office, because the new V5 that you will have generated for you won't have that information because of changes to the data protection laws. It will simply say number of former keepers, 1 or 7 or 6 or whatever it is. Then a few weeks later you will get a new V5 through the post from the DVLA, and it will say on the second page, a little section X for tax class, historic vehicle. Success! Happy days. So why does this work? Well, the thing is, what we want to do is we want to stop paying tax on our cars, don't we? Because we want to change the class of the taxation of the car from PLG, private light goods, to historic. So we go and ask for that to happen. But we have to think of it from the way the DVLA thinks about it. Your car is still being taxed even though the tax is 0 rated. So you go through exactly the same process and exactly the same system as if you were paying for your tax. It's just that it is taxed at 0. Two things kind of support this as evidence. Every year you will get a reminder through the post to tax your vehicle, and it will say quite nicely that for 12 months the rate is 0. And you have to go online onto the system as normal, type in your reference number and your registration number and tax the car, and it will just come up with say rate is 0, and you click yes, accept, and you get an email confirmation, just as normal. If you don't do that, then your car will come up on the DVLA's database as untaxed, and it will be a flag for the police to pick you up. Even though you haven't really diddled the DVLA out of any money, but the fact is that you still need to tax your car. Every year, this is tax. You're just not paying any. So when you go to the post office and ask the wrong question, I want to change the class of the taxation of my car to historic vehicle, they're absolutely correct in saying they can't do it. It isn't what they do. They don't do it. The DVLA does that. And when the DVLA write back to you, if you send them the V5 sort of unsolicitedly, they will write back and say, no, you've got to go and tax it at the post office first before we can change the taxation class to historic. And that's where the real confusion comes in, because people kind of think, well, why do I need to go and tax it at the post office when what I'm trying to do is make it tax exempt? But hopefully, if you've understood what I've said in this video, you'll understand why that is the case. It's simply a matter of language and a matter of thinking about it from the DVLA's perspective and not yours as the sort of consumer's perspective.
And finally, a quick note on the ULEZ. As you may well know, once a vehicle has been registered as historic for tax purposes, it is also exempt from the ULEZ charge. However, as far as I can tell, you still need to actually register that vehicle on your own vehicle account. And as you can see, some of my cars are registered here on the account and it shows that they are exempt from the charge. But if I go onto the main TfL website and type in my 245, which is not registered on the system, you will see that it still thinks that it is going to cost me £12.50 a day to enter the ULEZ zone. So just be aware of that if you live in the ULEZ zone or near it.
So there we have it. I hope that this makes a quite tricky situation just that little bit clearer for you and helps you when the 1st of April 2024 comes around, or any other 1st of April in the future that applies to your vehicle. Good luck. Thank you very much indeed for watching. I'd be really grateful if you haven't subscribed to my channel and you watch my videos and you like them, that you would just tick that little subscribe button. It does make a big difference to me. And also, if you would like the video, and also if you want to comment, you're very welcome to share your thoughts. I have lots of lovely people who comment on all my videos and I really enjoy interacting with those comments and hearing about your thoughts about cars and that sort of thing. Anyway, enough of me talking. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.